You do not need discipline to avoid putting your hand in a fire. You do not stand there saying, I know fire burns, but I just can't make myself act on it. The not touching is the knowing. That was the point Wang Yangming made 500 years ago. If you really know something, action is already inside the knowing. So when you say, I know I should write the book, or I know I should have the conversation, but you still don't act, Wang would not call you lazy. He would say something more dangerous. Maybe you don't actually know what you claim to know. The pattern is familiar. You know the work you should do. You know the gym session you should not skip. You know the message you should send. You can explain perfectly why these things matter. And you still don't do them. So the self-improvement world gives you the same diagnosis. Weakness. Not enough discipline. Not enough urgency. You buy the planner. You set the alarm. You listen to someone tell you to remember death. It works for 3 days, sometimes a week. Then the gap comes back. And each time it comes back, the voice gets harsher. Maybe you are the kind of person who understands life clearly and still fails to move. But what if the gap is not proof that you are weak? What if the gap is evidence that the diagnosis is wrong? To understand the wrong diagnosis, you have to understand the most popular version of it, the Stoic answer. Marcus Aurelius spent the last decade of his life as Emperor of Rome, writing private notes to himself that we now call the Meditations. War, disease, grief, an empire on his back. His answer was strategic hardening. When he did not want to get out of bed, he reminded himself, "You were not made for warmth. You were made to do the work of being human." Memento mori, remember death. Get up. Do your duty. There is real wisdom here. Death awareness can jolt people into motion. Duty is a real force. The Stoic answer works, sometimes. But notice the frame. Marcus treats reluctance as an enemy to overcome. He is not asking why the reluctance is there. He is asking which lever is heavy enough to push the body forward. That can work when the duty is obvious and the stakes are real. But for most of us, the book can wait. The conversation can wait. The gym can wait. So the Stoic lever runs out of leverage, and you are back where you started, staring at the gap between knowing and doing, blaming yourself for it. Marcus accepts that there's a gap between what you know and what you do. His whole strategy assumes the gap is real, and the only question is how to bridge it. Wang Yangming, 1500 years later, looks at this and asks a more dangerous question. What if the gap isn't real? What if knowing without doing isn't a fact about humans, but a sign that you don't actually know what you claim to know? Wang Yangming was born in 1472 in coastal China. He should have been an ordinary scholar, but he had a strange restlessness. As a young man, he tried to follow the dominant philosophy of his time. Investigate external things until wisdom appears. The famous story says he sat in front of a bamboo grove for 7 days, trying to investigate it into understanding. He got nothing. He decided the framework was broken. What happened next is the part that matters. In his late 30s, he offended a corrupt eunuch at court. He was beaten with 40 blows of the heavy stick and exiled to Longchang, a malarial outpost in Guizhou. No house, no support. The real possibility that the court might still have him killed. In a stone hut that he built himself, at the edge of dying, he had the realization that changed Chinese philosophy. The principle you are searching for is already in your own mind. You do not become wise by collecting more external facts. You become wise by examining the mind that is already responding before you explain it. He came back from exile. He became a military commander, a statesman, and one of the most influential philosophers in East Asian history. This is not an armchair philosopher. He earned the right to be heard. His central teaching has 4 characters. 知行合一. Knowing and acting are one thing. Most people, when they first hear this, hear it as a motivational poster. Knowledge should produce action. True wisdom is lived, not just spoken. That reading is correct, but soft. Wang Yangming meant something sharper. He said, if knowing does not produce acting, then it was never really knowing. It was opinion, performance, intellectual familiarity. Real moral knowing is the same event as real moral acting. They are not two steps. They are one motion. The way that lightning and thunder are one event seen by different senses. This is why the fire example matters. A man who knows fire burns does not summon discipline. The not touching is the knowing. If he stood there, hand over the flame, saying, I know fire burns, but I cannot make myself act on it, you would not call him undisciplined. You would say, he has heard about fire. He has an idea about fire, but he does not yet know fire. Now turn this on yourself. You claim to know you should write the book. The book is not being written. Wang Yangming would say, look more closely. You have a thought about writing. You may have guilt around not writing, but the knowing that would make action natural is not there yet. This sounds harsher than the Stoic answer, but it gives you something the Stoic answer often cannot. What you get is a tool, not motivation, not discipline, a diagnostic question. When you notice you are not acting on something you claim to know, you do not flog yourself for weakness. You do not stack another habit on top. You ask, what would I have to believe for my current behavior to make sense? Not what I say I believe, not what I want to believe. What belief is my behavior already obeying? About the book, maybe you believe writing it would expose that you are not as smart as people think. Maybe the book does not matter, and you have been performing ambition. Maybe success would cost you belonging. Maybe your real talent is somewhere else. Maybe, and this is the hard one, you believe writing it will not change anything. These beliefs are running you. They are doing the actual deciding. The stated belief, I should write this book, is being overridden every single day by something the stated belief cannot see. The Stoic answer would have you push harder against the override. Wang Yangming would have you find the override and examine it. This week, pick one thing you claim to know you should be doing and aren't. Just one. Do not add it to your habit tracker. Do not promise yourself tomorrow will be different. Sit with it long enough to ask Wang Yangming's question, what belief is actually winning? Then make the action fit the real belief. If the real belief is, the first hour will be ugly, the task is to produce one ugly page on purpose. If the real belief is, this goal is borrowed, the task is to admit you wanted the identity more than the work. If the real belief is, I am afraid people will find out I am ordinary, the task is to write privately until your nervous system learns that being seen is survivable. This is the difference. Marcus gives you force. Wang gives you diagnosis. Force can move you for a day. Diagnosis changes what you are even trying to solve. Both men agree action matters. Marcus Aurelius treats the gap between knowing and acting as a fact of human nature and gives you levers to bridge it. Wang Yangming says the gap is the symptom. The deeper problem is that you do not yet know what you claim to know. Marcus is a doctor for the symptom. Wang Yangming is a doctor for the cause. You can use both. There are days when you need Marcus. Get up, remember death, do your duty. But if you have been pushing harder for years and still standing in the same gap, the missing answer may not be more force. It may be more honesty. Old mind, new world.